Knowing I bred our family dog, my husband scolded me for being sick, and my mother-in-law was so angry she broke down. In my previous life, my pet dog Kiki, who had been with me for 10 years, passed away. Seeing my sadness, my husband and mother-in-law bought a similar dog from the pet market to replace Kiki. After the dog came home, I thought it would fill Kiki's absence. But I never expected that every few days it would either pee on my bed or make a mess of everything in the house. Even more outrageous, it wore my pajamas and lay on the marital bed I shared with my husband. I demanded my husband and mother-in-law send it away, but they said I was making a fuss over a dog. Until the day of my wedding anniversary with my husband and mother-in-law suggested celebrating and prepared a big table of food. In the end, a large table of dishes were not finished, and the husband and mother-in-law, fearing waste, planned to give the leftovers to the dog. I didn't think much of it and agreed, but that night, I suddenly died of a heart attack. Only after death did I find out. The dog my husband and mother-in-law brought back was actually my husband's wealthy first love, who had died of a sudden heart attack half a month prior. My husband and mother-in-law brought her back to swap her life with mine. Opening my eyes again, I returned to the day my husband and mother-in-law brought the dog back. My husband walked to my door holding a dog, his face brimming with joy. "Wife, come quickly, see how much this dog looks like Kiki." I subconsciously looked over and saw a small dog nestled in my husband's arms, wearing exquisite little clothes. My body shook violently, and familiar scenes flashed through my mind. I looked at my husband's excited expression and realized I had been reborn. Seeing that I didn't speak, my husband urged me, "Wife, I put the puppy in your bedroom. It's here to accompany you instead of Kiki. You must treat it well." I came back to my senses at my husband's words. Turning my head and seeing the human-like smile on the dog's face, my heart skipped a beat. The scene of my tragic death in the previous life flashed before my eyes, and I refused without thinking. "No way. I don't want to raise it." My husband was stunned. "Wife, it looks so much like Kiki. Why don't you want to raise it? Besides, I ran all over several dog farms to find it for you. Even if you don't raise it, they won't give us a refund." After saying that, my husband carried the dog to my bed without explanation and soothingly patted its head. Seeing the interaction between my husband and the dog, I didn't feel warmth, only coldness. In my previous life, after Kiki's death, my husband also brought back a puppy like this for me. I didn't suspect anything and treated the dog as a second Kiki. I thought its arrival would fill the void in my heart, but I never expected it to not be a normal pet dog at all. On the first day at home, it peed and pooped on my bed. The days that followed were even more intensified, either deliberately smashing my things or wearing my pajamas and lying on my marital bed with a smug look. At that moment, it didn't look like a dog but like a person. I felt extremely strange and quickly asked my husband and mother-in-law to come over and take a look, taking the opportunity to suggest sending the dog away. However, my husband and mother-in-law said I was making a mountain out of a molehill, and there was no need to fuss with the dog. This kind of life continued until my wedding anniversary with my husband. On the wedding anniversary, my mother-in-law and husband prepared a big table of dishes. When the food was not finished, my mother-in-law and husband suggested giving the leftovers to the dog. I thought that it usually ate better than people, so I immediately nodded in agreement. I thought my mother-in-law and husband were finally going to discipline it, but that night, I suddenly had a heart attack and died. Only then did I realize that the dog was not here to replace Kiki at all, but was actually my husband's deceased wealthy first love. Bringing it home was to exchange its life with mine. Thinking about how I died of a heart attack in her place in my previous life, and how she triumphantly occupied my body, hugging and kissing my husband, I felt extremely angry. Looking at my husband and mother-in-law playing with the dog, I revealed a strange smile. "Since you're here, then don't leave. In this life, let me give you a big gift." Just like in the previous life, the dog peed on my bed on the night it came to our house. I looked at the urine-stained yellowed sheets and bedding, and my temples throbbed uncontrollably, thinking that the dog's body contained my husband's first love's soul, and that it actually understood everything and was deliberately disgusting me. I immediately became furious and picked up the feather duster to hit it. The dog immediately burst into fierce screams, jumping up and down in my room, smashing my cups and knocking over the wedding photo frame of my husband and me. The shout attracted the attention of my husband and mother-in-law. As soon as the door opened, the dog immediately darted over and jumped onto my husband, nestling in his arms and staring at me with a terrified and aggrieved expression. Hearing the dog's whimper, my husband felt extremely sorry for it. He looked at me with impatience, complaining, "Jessica, why are you picking on a little dog? It's just a puppy, it doesn't understand. Look how scared you've made it." The scene from my past life overlapped with what was happening now. Seeing that damned dog wagging its tail and provoking me, I trembled with anger, my voice shaking. "Picking on it? Didn't you see it peed all over my bed? It reeks of urine. How am I supposed to sleep? I just picked up the feather duster, and it started barking and darting around, smashing things all over the place. I didn't even touch it. And you're saying I'm scaring it? Are you blind? I can't stand this dog for even one more day. You guys better get rid of it. Otherwise, we're getting a divorce." Actually, a divorce would be ideal, but I knew my husband and mother-in-law would never let me go so easily. The two of them were scheming against me wholeheartedly. Even if I managed to escape this family through divorce, they would find a way to kill me. Upon hearing my words, my husband simply frowned at me, as if looking at an unreasonable shrew. "Jessica, you're really crazy. Why are you picking on a dog? I think you're possessed." With that, he carefully held the dog and turned to leave, throwing only one sentence at me. "We're sleeping in separate rooms for a while. You need to calm down." Hearing my husband's unforgiving scolding, the last shred of hope in my heart was completely extinguished. I closed the door and coldly dialed the dog training center's number. Since our unpleasant conversation last time, my husband had been sleeping with the dog for days. During the day, he would go to work and leave the dog with his mother, preventing me from throwing it out. Protected by my husband and mother-in-law, the dog provoked me in every way imaginable, day after day. It would rush into my room and poop or pee on my bed when I opened the door, or it would break my things and hide shards of glass in my shoes. The most outrageous time, it barged in while I was using the toilet and sprayed a stream of pee right in my face. I was drenched in the stinky urine, and I trembled with rage when I saw my husband and mother-in-law praising the dog for peeing so far and high. But I told myself to endure. The time wasn't right. I couldn't alert them. I endured the disgust, all the way until my wedding anniversary. Just like in my past life, my mother-in-law started early in the morning saying, "Today is your wedding anniversary. We've always had a simple celebration in the past, but this year is different. You two have to celebrate properly." My husband echoed, "That's right, this year is different. We need to prepare a big feast and celebrate properly." Hearing the exact same words as in my past life, I sneered inwardly. In my previous life, I asked them how this year was different, and my husband and mother-in-law simply brushed it off, saying that it was our 5th wedding anniversary and therefore more meaningful. Now thinking about it carefully, the different was welcoming his wealthy ex-girlfriend, and then killing me, right? Suppressing the surging emotions in my heart, I forced a smile at my husband and mother-in-law. "Okay, let's celebrate properly." With that, my husband and mother-in-law went out to buy groceries together. Before leaving, he looked at me and said with a smile, "Wife, today is our wedding anniversary. After Mom and I get back from buying groceries, we'll celebrate properly." He even reached out, pulled me into his arms and hugged me. I pretended to be shy and lowered my head, burying my face in his chest, hiding the coldness in my eyes. 4 or 5 hours later, my husband and mother-in-law returned with the groceries. I don't know what kind of groceries would take that long to buy, but they definitely had bad intentions. As soon as they got home, my mother-in-law locked herself in the kitchen, and my husband went in to help with the cooking. The two of them closed the kitchen door, not knowing what they were up to. After the meal was ready, my mother-in-law looked at the table full of dishes and said to me, "Jessica, today is your and Arthur's wedding anniversary. Mom made a lot of your favorite dishes, so you have to eat a lot." My husband also chimed in, "That's right, honey. We've been arguing a lot lately, and our relationship has become strained. Now I understand that a husband should be more tolerant in a marriage. Eat more and have a glass of wine, and consider it my apology." Looking at the dazzling array of delicacies on the table, I thought about my reaction after eating them last time. In my previous life, I ate a lot of the food, urged on by my husband and mother-in-law, and my stomach became bloated. I wanted to go to the toilet, but I found that my head was dizzy and I wasn't thinking clearly. But knowing that eating these dishes would make me abnormal, I slowly picked up a dish under the watchful eyes of my husband and mother-in-law. My husband's expression was visibly excited, and my mother-in-law's eyes were shining as she clenched her hands tightly. Afraid I wasn't eating enough, seeing me pick up food, my husband and mother-in-law watched me eat while urging, "Eat more, Jessica, you're so thin, you need to eat more." "Why aren't you eating?" I mumbled through the food in my mouth. My husband and mother-in-law showed a hypocritical smile. "You eat first, Jessica, we'll eat after you're done." The two of them were practically counting down the seconds. Seeing my stomach bulging, my husband and mother-in-law figured I had eaten enough, and then after taking 2 symbolic bites of food, my mother-in-law immediately stood up and said, "We made a bit too much food, it's a waste if we can't finish it. Why don't we call Precious over and let her take care of it for us?" My husband immediately nodded. "Right, it's not good to waste food, I'll go get her now." My husband got up and left, while my mother-in-law remained standing, unable to resist stretching her neck to look. But no matter how much my husband looked, he couldn't find the dog. He and my mother-in-law frantically searched the entire house, only to discover that the dog was nowhere to be seen on the second floor. My husband and mother-in-law grew anxious and rushed to me, covered in sweat. "Jessica, where did Precious go? Did you throw the dog away behind our backs?" Seeing my husband and mother-in-law's worried expressions, I couldn't help but find it funny. A feeling of revenge rose in my heart. I slowly stood up and pointed to a room on the first floor, saying, "Precious is so liked by you, of course I wouldn't throw her away." Before my husband could rejoice, I continued, "But I've noticed she keeps climbing onto my bed lately, she must be in heat. I figured she's the apple of our eye, we can't let the dog be so uncomfortable. So I found a dozen male dogs to mate her with, those dogs are big and black, they're sure to get her pregnant." Hearing this, my husband's face instantly turned pale. My mother-in-law staggered and collapsed to the ground, her whole body limp. Seeing the gradual pallor of my husband and mother-in-law's faces, I smiled and dropped the bomb. "Don't rush to find her for dinner, she probably won't be free for a while." To ensure successful mating, I gave her some animal medicine. She's probably very excited right now. I don't know how long it took, but my husband and mother-in-law finally came to their senses from my words. They trembled, as if they had suffered a great fright. My husband angrily raised his hand to hit me, but my mother-in-law pulled him downstairs. She said to him in a hoarse voice that I couldn't hear, "Forget about that bitch Jessica, go save the dog first." Only then did my husband react, glare at me with resentment, and hurriedly run downstairs. Feeling much better, I slowly followed them down. I saw my husband and mother-in-law screaming and running around on the first floor, opening the doors of every room to search. But after searching all the rooms, they couldn't find the dog. My husband was trembling with anger, questioning me with red eyes. "Jessica, where the hell did you hide Precious? If I can't find Precious, I'll fight you to the death." Seeing the worry for the dog in his bloodshot eyes, even though I had been mentally prepared for 2 lifetimes, my heart still couldn't help but clench. Suppressing the emotions in my heart, I pretended to be innocent and said, "Husband, why are you yelling at me? I was just trying to help Precious. If a female dog isn't spayed or bred when she's in heat, her uterus can fill with pus, and she'll need surgery. I spent a lot of money to rent those studs from the dog training center for Precious's health. How can you yell at me?" Listening to my endless explanations, my husband's nose turned crooked with anger. He raised his hand to slap me, but thinking that Precious hadn't been found yet, he could only put his hand down in resentment. He took several deep breaths to barely calm his agitated emotions. He forced a smile and said to me in a flattering tone, "Wife, I'm sorry, I was just too anxious, that's why I yelled at you. But Precious is only 5 months old. She's not old enough to be in heat, she doesn't need to mate. Please tell me where Precious is, I need to get there and stop it." Seeing my husband Arthur groveling and begging me for another woman, I felt a mix of emotions. Was that rich girl first love that good? So good that even when she's a dog, my husband has to protect her with his life? So good that he would sacrifice me, his wife of 5 years, to save her life. Thinking of this, I no longer felt like arguing with Arthur. With a listless expression, she pointed to the warehouse next to the first floor and said, "There's not enough room in the house for so many dogs, so I've taken them to the warehouse." As soon as she finished speaking, Arthur shot past me. He scrambled to the warehouse door, trembling as he opened it, and went inside. The next second, his heart-wrenching roar erupted from the warehouse. Looking inside, I saw my husband frantically chasing away the black dogs, kneeling on the ground and holding Precious in his arms. It was on its last legs, tongue lolling out, lying paralyzed on the ground, body writhing uncontrollably. Heartbroken, my husband quickly called my mother-in-law and drove the dog to the hospital. As he passed me, his eyes met mine, a look as sharp as a knife. That look seemed to say, "If anything happens to Precious, Jessica, I'll make you pay with your life." I stared fixedly at the departing figures of my husband and mother-in-law. Then I hailed a taxi and secretly followed them. At the hospital, the doctor took Precious in for emergency treatment. My husband and mother-in-law squatted in the hallway, waiting anxiously and angrily. A trace of unease crossed my mother-in-law's face. She murmured, "Son, if this life-swapping doesn't work this time, will Amber be all right?" My husband was also agitated, pacing back and forth in the hallway. Hearing his mother's concerns, he said, "Mom, don't ask. I'm already annoyed. Amber is currently residing in the dog's body. A dog's condition is different from a human's. I don't know either." Late at night, there weren't many people at the animal hospital. Arthur was extremely worried, but he couldn't barge in to see, so he started talking to his mother to distract himself. He recounted the scene in the warehouse earlier with a gloomy expression. "It's all Jessica's fault, that bitch. She ruined our plans. Why did she have to breed the dog? I think she's completely out of her mind." My mother-in-law chimed in. "It's my fault for not keeping a better eye on Amber this time. We need to guard Amber closely from now on and not let that slut Jessica get near." Hiding around the corner of the hallway, I listened to Arthur and my mother-in-law's conversation with a cold face. My mother-in-law had never been satisfied with me after I married Arthur. Other people's daughters-in-law are gentle and weak, easily controlled by their mothers-in-law. But I was strong and sturdy, obviously full of energy. Even if she wanted to pick on me, she had to think twice, fearing that I would lose my temper and fight with her. Plus, I hadn't gotten pregnant in the 5 years of my marriage to Arthur, so she hadn't gotten a grandson to hold, making her even more displeased with me. She always looked at me with disdain and told everyone I wasn't good enough for her son. Although most of the family's money came from my pig farm, she always felt that I was just a pig farmer, making it embarrassing to talk about to relatives and bringing no prestige to the family. So she would constantly badger my husband, telling him to divorce me and marry a young innocent woman. Originally, my husband liked me, otherwise he wouldn't have married me. But he couldn't resist his mother's constant nagging, and over time he began to have his own thoughts. He started to regret marrying me. He thought every day, if he hadn't married me and had continued his relationship with his wealthy first love, would his life be different now? As luck would have it, Arthur's first love had an accident half a month ago. She suddenly died of a heart attack. Arthur and his mother, who could only fantasize every day, suddenly perked up. They contacted the wealthy father of his first love and offered a way to swap her life. If the life swapping was successful, his first love would be reborn in a new body. The first love's father had lost his only daughter and was overwhelmed with grief. Hearing that Arthur and his mother had a solution, he immediately paid a large sum of money for their help. He promised that as long as they saved his daughter, he would agree to any price. So my husband and mother-in-law hit it off and turned their attention to me. As long as the life swapping was successful and his first love was resurrected in my body, my mother-in-law would have a wealthy daughter-in-law, and my husband wouldn't have to work like a horse. The whole family could become wealthy and live a life of luxury. Everyone has a good outcome, except for me, who was sacrificed. Even though I had long understood my husband and mother-in-law's malicious intentions towards me, hearing it with my own ears still filled me with anger and heartache. I just couldn't understand it. Wasn't I good enough to them? I poured money into the family, never let my husband do a single chore, and treated my mother-in-law like my own mother. But in their eyes, I was just a burden preventing them from becoming rich. Wiping away my tears, I clench my fists tightly. Since you don't treat me like a person, don't blame me for being ruthless in my revenge. That night, without informing anyone, I moved to the pig farm alone. Because I knew that until the life swap was successful, they wouldn't give up. Sure enough, the next day, Arthur and my mother-in-law came to my door, carrying the dog. Arthur pretended to be concerned. "Wife, why did you move to the farm?" As he spoke, his eyes were fixed on me, observing whether there was anything unusual about me. I sneered inwardly, but feigned distress and said, "I don't want to, honey, but Precious peed all over my sheets and blankets, and I have nothing to change into. I think it must hate me only targeting me. Plus, yesterday I mated it with the male dogs, so it probably dislikes me even more. I should hide here. Otherwise, I'm really afraid it will go crazy and bite me to death." As I spoke, I shivered, pretending to be scared. Arthur saw my lingering fear and didn't think I was faking it, so he gradually relaxed. He casually expressed some concern, and then said, "Wife, I think the reason Precious doesn't like you is because you have the scent of other dogs on you. Think about it, dogs are territorial. You've been raising Kiki for 10 years, so you must have a lot of its scent on you. Precious must not be used to you, so it's been targeting you. How about this? You cut off a lock of your hair and give it to me, and I'll make a sachet to hang around Precious's neck. It will wear it every day, and it won't be long before it gets used to your scent. Then it will definitely be affectionate towards you." As he spoke, Arthur was about to step forward and cut my hair. I dodged sideways and, as expected, saw a hint of anxiety and displeasure flash in his eyes. I instantly understood everything, so I pretended to happily nod and agree, and under Arthur's gaze, I cut off a lock of hair and handed it over. "Wow, honey, you're so smart. I never thought Precious didn't like me because of the smell. Honey, you're a genius. I've given you the hair, honey. You have to hurry up and make Precious get used to me, so I can go home sooner." Having achieved his goal by getting the hair I handed over, Arthur smiled. Then he handed me a sachet. "Wife, you're a woman after all, and the pig farm is so remote. I'm worried about you staying here alone. This sachet contains a charm my mother got for me. You wear it around your neck and let it protect you." As Arthur spoke, he gently put it on me. Seeing his concerned expression, I sneered inwardly. I never realized Arthur had the potential to be an actor. After doing all this, Arthur relaxed. He pretended to be concerned and asked after me for a while, then picked up Precious and left impatiently. As soon as he left, I immediately tore the sachet off my neck. Opening it, there was no charm, only a tuft of brown-yellow dog hair. The guess in my mind was completely confirmed. Thinking of Arthur's expectant look, I smiled and hung the sachet on the fattest sow in the farm. That night, through a secretly installed monitor, I saw Arthur and my mother-in-law singing and dancing around Precious. Its body began to twitch, and after a while, it suddenly twitched its legs and fell to the ground, as if its soul had been sucked out. Arthur carefully walked over to look, and then a huge surprise burst into his eyes. He turned to look at his mother. "Mom, the dog is dead." The symptoms are exactly the same as a heart attack. Amber's life swap was successful. The mother-in-law instantly understood and pointed at the dog on the ground, saying, "So this dog lying here is that bitch Jessica?" Arthur nodded. The look in his eyes towards the dog no longer held the tenderness of the past. With a glance between them, the mother and son actually skinned and bled the dog, then started a dog meat hot pot at home. Seeing this scene, a cold smile crept onto my lips. These two really hate me to the bone. Even the dog that symbolized me is dead, and they still want to squeeze out every last bit of value, skinning it and eating its flesh. I quietly watched the surveillance footage for a long time, until Arthur and his mother belched contentedly and returned to their rooms, and the image on the camera became static. Snapping back to reality, I smiled and went to the pig farm's pigsty. Sure enough, there was a large, fat sow rampaging inside. Upon seeing me, a human-like hatred flashed in the sow's eyes, and it charged at me with all its might. I stood still, coldly watching its rage. When the pig farm was built, I used the best materials, capable of withstanding a magnitude 10 earthquake. The fence hit by the sow only shook slightly, without even a dent. In contrast, the sow's face was covered in wounds, and thin streams of blood flowed from its snout. It glared at me, snorting and grunting. With its movements, its huge belly trembled uncontrollably, the piglets inside seeming ready to burst out. The pain in its face and belly scared it, and it howled as it collapsed on the ground, tears of unwillingness welling up in its pig eyes. All things have spirits. If a stranger saw this, they would surely feel pity for the pig. But I felt differently, only thinking that it deserved its current predicament. Watching its miserable, begging appearance, I coldly said, "Stop pretending. I know what you're really thinking. You're not regretting, you're just afraid. I remember every single scene of you flaunting your power over me when you were in the dog's body. Becoming a sow now is what you deserve. Just stay in that sow body and give the pig farm a new litter of piglets." Having said that, I turned and left without looking back, ignoring the wails behind me. I had a wonderful sleep. Before sleeping, I maliciously thought that after learning the truth, some people would probably never be able to sleep again. Sure enough, the next morning, Arthur and his mother came, drawn by the scent. The moment she saw me, Arthur's mother approached with a friendly expression, put her arm around my arm, and said, "Amber, how are you feeling?" Arthur also looked at me excitedly and couldn't help but laugh. "Amber, from now on you're my wife, we can finally be together." They cried and laughed for a long time, and stopped only to realize that I hadn't reacted at all. Arthur's mother looked at me with some doubt. "Amber, why aren't you talking? Haven't you adjusted to this body yet?" Arthur also became anxious. "Amber, if you're not feeling well, you must tell me, I'll find a way to help you." However, before Arthur could finish his sentence, I interrupted with a puzzled expression. I frowned and scrutinized them both, saying, "Husband, mother-in-law, what's wrong with you two? Did you hit your heads when you went out? My name is Jessica, not Amber." Saying that, I spat on my hands twice and slapped them across the face several times. After slapping their faces until they were swollen, I looked at Arthur and his mother anxiously. "Husband, mother-in-law, are you awake now? Do you recognize me? I'm Jessica, not some Amber." Arthur and his mother were disoriented from the slaps, and it took them a while to regain consciousness. After clearly hearing my words, they were both shocked. The mother-in-law looked at me in horror. You're Jessica? Then where's Amber? Where did my daughter-in-law Amber go?" I reached into my pocket and patted it, still feigning confusion. "Mom, what are you talking about? Should I call an ambulance for you? Your daughter-in-law has always been me. Where did some Amber come from?" Seeing this, Arthur finally understood. The life swap had failed again. His face pale, he rushed over to question me. "Jessica, where's the sachet I gave you? Why didn't you wear it?" I pretended not to understand his panic, scratched my head, and gave a simple, honest smile. "Oh, you mean that sachet, honey? Didn't it have a talisman inside? I thought the sows at the pig farm were about to give birth, so I hung it on one to bless it." As soon as the words left my mouth, Arthur and his mother rushed into the pig pen. They craned their necks, looking back and forth, but couldn't find the sachet on any of the sows. Arthur's lips trembled as he stammered, "Where's the sachet?" "Jessica, I'm asking you, where's the sachet? Which pig did you hang it on?" I looked carefully, and after several minutes, I shook my head helplessly. "Oh no, these sows are too restless. They must have knocked the sachet off while rooting around. Look at the feeding trough, the sachet must be there." Arthur looked where I pointed, and at just one glance he collapsed to the ground. Unwilling to give up, he desperately asked, "Which pig did you hang it on then? You must remember, right?" But he was doomed to disappointment. In response, I spread my hands and said, "These pigs all look the same. I forgot long ago." After I finished speaking, I left, leaving Arthur and his mother desperately searching in the pig pen. However, an entire morning passed and they looked and looked, searched and searched, but all the pigs looked the same, and they couldn't tell which one was the rich daughter, Amber. Arthur and his mother completely broke down, collapsing on the ground and wailing loudly. A customer who came to the pig farm to order goods passed by and frowned at them. "Are these two crazy, calling a bunch of sows their daughter-in-law?" I nodded in agreement. Yes, it's so sad, they must miss their daughter-in-law so much they've gone mad. After seeing off the customer, I was just about to eat lunch when I saw Arthur rush in with a knife. His mother followed behind him, her eyes bloodshot as she muttered to herself, Bitch. You ruined my daughter-in-law. I'm going to kill you to avenge her. As soon as she finished speaking, Arthur swung the knife at me. I quickly dodged and with lightning speed, closed the door, sneering at them through the glass. You really went to great lengths to get rid of me. Did you really think I didn't know that from the very beginning, bringing back that dead dog was to swap its life with mine? The first time we ate, you failed. The second time you cut my hair, time and time again. Did you really think I was a clay doll to be manipulated? Now it's great. Your precious rich daughter has been swapped into a sow. Are you satisfied? Are you happy? After I said that, Arthur and his mother were stunned. They looked at me in disbelief. Jessica, you knew all along? I nodded and maliciously laughed at them. Yes, seeing you being played like fools by me, I couldn't be happier. Arthur's face flushed with blood. Bitch. You bitch. You deliberately let the male dog mate with Amber, and deliberately hung the sachet on the sow. I shrugged with a smile. That's right, I did it on purpose. What are you going to do about it? Come hit me. Arthur and his mother were indeed enraged by me, and they bared their teeth and claws, heading for the glass door with the knife. People can explode with great potential and anger. And in just a few minutes, the glass door began to show signs of cracking. Arthur gave me a ferocious smile, eager to rush in and skin me alive. But the next second, sirens sounded and several police cars pulled in. I had expected that Arthur and his mother wouldn't let me go, so I had timed my call to the police perfectly, and watched as a team of officers ran over and subdued Arthur and his mother. After giving my statement at the police station, a kind-hearted officer offered to take the frightened me home. As I was leaving, a middle-aged man passed by me with a threatening aura. The next moment, a sharp howl came from the interrogation room. It was the voices of Arthur and his mother. It turned out that Amber's wealthy father, Mr. Harrison, had arrived, and after learning that the life swap had failed and his daughter had been swapped into a sow, he had gone completely mad. Arthur and his mother were detained for half a month, and he had people waiting outside the whole time. The day they came out, they were kidnapped by several strong men into a van. Mr. Harrison put iron chains around Arthur and his mother-in-law's necks, locking them in a pigsty like pigs. When they were hungry, they could only eat swill. When they were thirsty, they could only lick urine. They slept and defecated in the same trough. Mr. Harrison glared at them sinisterly. The master said that swapping fates was a foolproof method, absolutely guaranteed to bring my daughter back to life. It was you who jumped out, patted your chests and told me you had a suitable body for Amber. That's why I entrusted Amber to you without worry. But is this how you put my mind at ease? My daughter was swapped into a sow. As he spoke, Mr. Harrison pressed Arthur and his mother-in-law's heads, forcing them to kneel on the ground. Before them was a portrait of Amber. Mr. Harrison said, word by word. Both fate-swapping attempts failed. The master told me my daughter can't come back. Do you know that you're the reason my pampered daughter lost her chance to be resurrected? I'll make you atone for it with your entire lives. Mr. Harrison treated Arthur and his mother-in-law like two pigs, torturing them for a whole month. In the end, they died a miserable death with their eyes wide open, reportedly no longer resembling humans when they died. When I heard about it, I felt no sadness, no sorrow, but unhesitatingly dialed the police. Mr. Harrison was arrested and imprisoned for murder and sentenced to death by the court. On the day of his execution, I received the news and exhaled a heavy breath. Fortunately, I was prepared and had been monitoring Mr. Harrison's movements. Otherwise, after taking revenge on Arthur and his mother-in-law, I would have been next. Now everything is good. The bad guys have received the punishment they deserved. The people who threatened my life are all gone. Only now have I truly been reborn and completely taken control of my life. In the future, I will definitely live up to my current efforts, run the pig farm well, and live the happy life that belongs to me.